What made you call it Inspiring Courage by Vafa? Because it's a very intriguing name, which I would search on YouTube if I needed help.
Oh, thank you for thinking it's intriguing. I started it because I think courage is very important in the process of change and transformation. So when you are trying to step outside your comfort zone and do something that is really new to you, sometimes it's really scary, and you have to employ a good dose of courage to keep going, because along the path that you take, there will be many moments that you will come across obstacles, that life will become difficult, and it's only by having the courage that you can go forward. And inspiring is because the talks that I do with my beautiful guests are supposed to be providing inspirational nuggets of wisdom for people who want to make their life better, bigger and brighter in some way, shape or form.
It took losing my mother to make me realize that it's not what you haven't got that's important to you. It's what you have, what is closest to you and what's precious to you. Surrounding myself with positive people definitely helps. Find people that are where you want to be and work with them, let them help you on the journey to where you want to be. And then read, I would recommend some very, very good personal development books. This one was very influential in my early times, which is Stop Thinking, Start Living by Richard Carlson. It's all about don't allow the negative things of your past to define you, allow them to shape you.
I had to learn to know who I was again. So I went through a process of personal development, core values exercise, to understand who I was, what made me tick, what my purpose was. But during that process, I discovered a book by Napoleon Hill, which is, probably the godfather of personal development, Think and Grow Rich. And there was one quote in there that just resonated beautifully. And it was, the quote, what the mind of man can conceive, it can achieve. And that just summed up for me my total belief in the human brain to achieve and to create something tangible at the end of it from an intangible.
Yeah, the process of change or transformation is never linear. We have lots of ups and downs. And I love the quote because that just shows that when you are in control of your life, when you decide to be in control of your life, you control your reality. And nobody else can do that but you. So you as the person in charge have to take complete ownership of the problem that you're facing and discover ways of sorting it. And that's what I love.
I have dug deep to sort of work out what is the fundamental thing that has been the pivotal point of my life, or the thing that's made the difference. And it comes down to, I know this is about inspiring courage. It's about having the courage to find and use my voice and to step up and do stuff that I've never done before, to step out of that kind of fear bubble, the comfort zones that we all have. So it's finding your voice. The catalyst for this was very much, not that long ago, and and I'm a lot older than some of you, like you, and I wish I'd found this, years before, but better late than never. So it came to point where I literally tipped over into depression, and something I'd never thought I would, and had a breakdown. This is about 6 years ago. The most awful experience. So I completely relate to anybody who's had that issue, or still going through it for that matter. And what happened was I went completely withdrawn into me. And the catalyst for me was getting so desperate. Two things happened. I got so desperate one day that I was going backwards. I had a son who needed looking after. Financially, I was going backwards. I couldn't function. I couldn't get up. I didn't have a job. I'd just come out of divorce. And I literally got so desperate, I just launched myself out of my chair in the sitting room where I was just staring at the window. And I picked up the phone to someone who owns a business magazine, and I asked, whether I could propose an idea of working for him. And in that moment, I literally broke two things. One is I broke that fear of of being stuck, and I moved into action without thinking about it, without doubting myself, without wondering, without that sort of waiting till I was ready to. And I also spoke. I also expressed myself and the passion I had for doing something new. And I got the job. I got the contract, not the job, the contract. And that changed the trajectory of my life. And hence the reason I've met you. I think where a lot of people come from is pain. But out of pain comes amazing stuff. You know, through adversity comes equal or greater benefit in most cases. And we're seeing a lot of that in the lockdown situation.
Or the other thing that I really loved when we were talking earlier was that the imposter syndrome is so big in all of us. You know, no matter how far you've traveled, no matter how much you know about the power that you have in you, that imposter syndrome is very alive in all of us. And we do kind of have a roller coaster of, I'm feeling great today. I'm feeling that I can go and inspire people. Oh my goodness me, do I feel worthy? Am I even worthy to go and inspire? Who am I to tell people to live a better life? And then, you know, something happens, we have a conversation, and you kind of, you know, pick yourself up again. So that again highlights the importance, that beautiful network that you had. You know, you went to your network of supporters. You went to one person who championed you, and you proposed that you would do something, and the trust was such that you were taken on. And look at the journey that you've come on.
You know, you're doing what you're doing, and what we're doing, and getting ourselves out there. And in order to be more visible, you have to allow yourself to be more vulnerable. And I think Brené Brown sort of sums it up by saying courage starts with showing up and allowing yourself to be seen, and not just physically, but emotionally to be seen. So, you know, that's being brave, and it's about being bold. And I guess it's about being better.
So my research at that point, I was really looking into this topic of highly sensitive person. About 20% of humans are genetically programmed to be more than averagely responsive. You know, if they notice, we notice at a greater level of depth what's going on around us. And we also process that information at a greater level of depth. So there's a lot of processing going on with all of this observation, and it comes with certain great gifts. Everyone is different, obviously, but you know, some of the key gifts tend to be this power of observation and the ability to be able to process that information and pattern match, you know, to spot the patterns and to join dots. So it makes highly sensitive people really good problem solvers, because they're able to see things, problems, before they become crises. Another reason they're really good problem solvers is because there's also this very rich imagination that tends to come with being highly sensitive. So we're able to see the problems and really imagine a solution. Intuition, you know, we've got this highly developed sense of gut feel about things, and I really believe that that comes from being able to observe at this micro level of detail what's going on, and to really be able to observe people and the behavior, because of the empathy that we have as well. That's another of the superpowers. So there's this wide range of gifts that come with being highly sensitive, but along with all of that processing, it uses up so much of our energy that actually what tends to happen is that we are more prone than average, about twice as likely as non-highly sensitive people, to burn out, to suffer from overwhelm. So that's what the world tends to see in us. They tend to see that, and you know, this label of snowflake, I've reclaimed it. I think snowflakes are individual and beautiful, and together they you know, they shape landscapes. But it's important that we look after ourselves, and that we have the self-awareness to understand when we're getting overwhelmed, and to be able to give ourselves permission to remove ourselves from those situations so that we can recover. So yeah, it was wonderful to meet you and to recognize a fellow HSP and be able to enlighten you about that.
It was awesome. It was just one of those moments of realization for me. And I almost immediately forgave myself because I was feeling particularly low. And I kept thinking, what's wrong with you? You're at an event that you've been looking forward to for ages. Why are you so low? You know, this is your perfect opportunity to go and find like-minded people, because that's what I did when I was an explorer. That's what I did when I went to events like that. And I just couldn't do that. And it was just so fortuitous that I sat next to you. I get that mindset, that you had the mindset of a sportsman, the mindset of somebody who needed to try and try and try again and try in the face of adversity yet again so that they could succeed. It's about redefining that's the meaning of failure, because failure has such a negative meaning to most of us. Failure means that we have failed to the extent that we need to give up. However, a child, as you said, never gives up because they don't think failure is an option. You know, that's one of the presuppositions that we have in NLP. There's no failure, only feedback.
One thing to harp on what you said earlier, the one quote I love is a quote about Michael Jordan's old college coach. And he said, the only one that could stop Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. And he was the only one that can turn himself on and off. And he never turned himself off. You know, a line like that was just incredible to me. But that's the kind of mindset a lot of people need to have, because the only one who can stop you is generally you.
And that's it. You know, we stand in our own way. If everybody understood that their thoughts shape their reality, the world that we live in is shaped by the thoughts that we have, by the way we speak to ourselves. And if we were to fix that, we would fix a lot of our problems, actually.
What I found is that I had to work really hard at changing my attitude towards things. I was starting to think, well, yeah, the world's got it in for me. But I found an executive job club, and I think if anyone out there is in a management role or executive, try and find a local executive job clubs. They are charities, so there's no fees involved. But what they will do is they will teach you how to job hunt in today's market, and today's market is very, very different. Astonishing facts like 70% of all adverts you see for jobs aren't real.
I think, you know, something important that we discussed before was when you are trying to redefine who you are, when you're trying to find what you can do. You were telling me you did a lot of personal development also. That was quite an important factor in your life also, wasn't it? And also finding out what skills you had, doing an audit of your skills and strengths and see what's missing, and not being afraid of going in search of them. And, you know, as you said, personal development for you played a great role in that. Thank you so much for giving us so much. You've told us about how to build that resilient mindset when you've been made redundant. It's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to feel angry for a while, but take responsibility, take ownership of the situation, and go and find your next task, because you never know, you might, you know, something much better might be around the corner for you. So it's having that mindset to go and look for it. That's going to make all the difference, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the best thing that happens with us in life are the challenges that we experience, some difficulties, challenges, tough times. As when it comes, it feels really tough and really difficult, and we feel a lot of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. However, when we learn how to deal with that, and we kind of engage whatever we need to engage, either we ask some mentor or coach for support, or we read books, or we figure it out ourselves, whatever helps, or ask the best friends, or whoever is the person who can help us in the challenge journey. Then when we have sorted it, and we can, as if the challenge is given to us, if we are thrown in the challenge situation, that means that we have the strengths to resolve it. We just need to find the strengths and find and engage the resources that can help us.
Yes, and have that vision, that, you know, you can keep focused. Yeah, absolutely.
Have that vision, and have somebody who helps to keep us accountable for progressing with our life, not falling down, but keep step by step, keep progressing.
Yeah.
And when it's done, when you have resolved the challenge that's thrown at you, then you have this kind of confidence, and you have self-awareness. What are your strengths? What you are, what's your kind of bigger purpose, as you have connected to who you are, how you are, and how you can help others to go through that challenge journey as well. And then it's much more easier to build that pathway from a corporate career, where probably some people feel stuck, and you might feel stuck, that if it doesn't let you to do the things that you are really passionate about or that you are talented at, sometimes in corporate role, we cannot really shape it as much as we would like to. Some people can, but in some companies you can't. And then you want to do what you love doing, but you cannot do that in the corporate careers. So having gone through the challenge journey helps you with self-confidence, self-awareness, and feeling of your true potential, what you are capable of, as each of us is capable of so much more than we think of. What I see with my clients, that people tend to put themselves in a box and think this is my potential and I cannot reach more or do more. Actually, you can.
We were building relationships based on trust, because that's what relationships are. You have that in your families, with your friends. Why can't you have that in business as well, right? Because business generally is predicated on a contractual obligation. You know, whether it's with customers or with suppliers or even with your teams, we have an employment contract. This is what you've come to do. This is how much you're going to get paid, right? And it kind of destroys the opportunity for relationships to be built. Our values are all based around the ways in which you treat other people. So it's basically about respect and equality. That's really what the values are about. It's about how you work in business. Simon Sinek talks about the why, the how, and the what of business, right? Well, the how, in my view, is the values. And it's what you hold dear, and it's behaviors which are acceptable and what's not acceptable. And it's not just the way the values you have, but it's also noticing the values that other people have and whether what they're doing and saying tramples on your values or not. So you can build relationships with people who have similar values, I believe, as we do. And but that's not all the business is about. The other element, which is really important, is purpose. What is the purpose of business? And a purpose, to my view, is really important to specify purpose, because if you don't, people will assume that your purpose is to maximize profits, because that's how we're taught through. I mean, I did economics at A level. I did business administration, and you listen to the media and read the newspapers, and it's all about how much money is made for the shareholders, right? All of that, our education is based on that. But the truth is that the 5.5 million businesses out there, 95% have less than 10 employees in the UK, and those people have not set up a business to maximize profit. And I know this sounds a bit weird. I know people are going to say, what's he talking about? That's rubbish. But you start speaking to people who run small businesses, and there's a passion that belies what they're doing. And yes, of course, it's important to make enough money that you can feed the family, of course. But beyond that, people aren't all greedy for more and more for maximizing profit. Of course not. There's an alternative purpose which is based on your passion, and it's about human beings. And I would say that even if it's about the environment, that's about human beings living in the environment. So it's a social purpose.
I had to start putting myself out there and making more contacts and doing more networking. Now, networking and making contacts and talking to people I don't know are not my favorite things to do. No. So it was a real leap of faith for me to actually be brave enough to go to places where I didn't know people, to talk to people, to build up those networks. But I'm glad that I did. It was definitely worth it. I had to just put myself out there and be a bit braver. And through doing that, I have had some really wonderful opportunities. I've developed a bit of a reputation as being an advocate for funny books, not just for their humour, but for the really important and tricky issues they can cover, as well as making you laugh. And through that, I was invited to judge the Lollies. That's short for the Laugh Out Loud Funny Book Awards, which are run by Scholastic and the mighty Michael Rosen. And I was honoured to be a judge on that panel, and I've been involved since with shortlisting titles. And if I hadn't put myself out there and gone to these events, I wouldn't have met her.
That's what I love. Yeah, that's what I love about it, because we discussed it many times and you weren't comfortable networking, but you just got outside your comfort zone, didn't you? and you did it by doing so. I remember your avatar to begin with when you went on social media, for example, and then it took you a while to be comfortable to put your own picture there. So this is kind of, you know, the kind of gut reaction you had to being visible, I guess, same as me. So we've kind of come on parallel paths as well, because I didn't like to be on social media, and, you know, I've just started putting myself out there. And it's just the limiting beliefs that we have, those kind of limits that we put on ourselves, say, we can't do this for this reason, for that reason. And then when we do it, we see the benefits. So I guess the message here is to get outside your comfort zone and do the things that you are afraid of, because they're not as bad as you think. And, you know, for you and for me both, we've had that kind of bigger vision. We know what we're leading towards. Therefore, it's important to actually start taking steps towards that.
I think perhaps one of the lessons that's come out of my life is that life is just a journey, and it just evolves. It goes along, and you should just go with it and do the things that you enjoy, because I think that's really important. When I left school, I had to find a job. Well, my father insisted I found a job, to be honest, and I didn't know what to do. And they had a thing called the Youth Employment Office, which directed me to be an apprentice draftsman. And again, I had no plans to do that, but it provided money and it gave me day release at college. So I enjoyed the life. But once I got into engineering, I found it really interested me. And I've seen this time and time again, particularly with young people. There is so much choice open to them, and they're thinking, what shall I do? And I think it's very hard for them to decide at 18 or 20 what they're going to do for the rest of their life. So I think it's just good to get into something and see whether you enjoy it or not, because it's not until you do the job that you really understand whether that's for you. I think it's very rare that you get one inspirational figure in your life, but you do get lots of inspiration off the people that you meet as you go through. And he said, being able to stand up and speak in front of an audience will be critical to your career. And he says, if you can't do it, you won't go very far. And that always stuck at the back of my brain. From 2002, I started to work on the process of writing great speeches, because you can work on the body language, the presentation, the stage mechanics, all the things that go to make a really polished speech. But unless the underpinning structure and content is good, you're on a hiding to nothing. And even, I think it was Hitchcock said, you know, I can always make a bad film out of a good script, but I'll never make a great film out of a bad script. And that's true. If your script is poor to start with, you're on a hiding to nothing.
To me, passion is the internal expression of the courage that others see.
You're talking about purpose here, having a purpose. I love that. Absolutely. I love everything you're saying. And, you know, when you have a purpose, you are emotionally attached to that purpose, so much so that it just drives you forward. No matter how many obstacles you see in the way, you are driven to deliver your purpose. And, you know, you've named it really. And I think it's really interesting what you say, that some business owners don't even realize that they're courageous when they're doing it. It's only because they've got this real desire to achieve something that they keep doing it, and they're so good at keeping on that path that they don't even see it as a strength. So they think that it's normal and natural, and everybody would do that, anybody would do that. I'm not unique in doing that. And then it's not until you share your story that people around you will say, oh gosh, that's really courageous. Like, really? Do you think so? And again, that's the beauty about storytelling, and, you know, how we connect with others, and how when we drop that armor and we connect on a real deep human level, we discover that, you know, we are much better than what we think we are. And it's, you know, we are better as a result of being part of that collective as well, because then we get encouraged, we get championed by people to just keep on that purpose. So I love it. The passion that you're talking about, I kind of identify as my ikigai, as, you know, what is it that gets me out of bed every morning and keeps me on the path.
And so we've got knowledge, we've got skills, we've got experience, and all of that boils down actually in an individual to something that is completely unique. Nobody has exactly the same knowledge and skill and experience that I have, because it's been my life. So the question I think to ask, you know, anybody who's listening today, to ask yourself is, what is it in that uniqueness, in that set of knowledge and skill and experience that I have that other people value? Because that's where the better business sits. That's where the opportunity to stand out and do something different in the world exists. And that's where you need the courage to stand up and say, this is me and this is what I'm good at.
Exactly. I love that. That's such a great thing to realize, to kind of realize it in yourself, because again, not many do. It's realizing that this is my skill, this is my strength. And you know, I feel in the past, some of the traits that I now see as my strengths and my key skills have been assumed to be my weaknesses. So again, it's really crucial to understand that maybe a weakness, if you worked on it a little bit and under different circumstances in a different environment, that actually will be your strength. So yes, find your strength, but also do an audit of your weaknesses and see how you can reframe those weaknesses into strength. So that's a lesson that I've learned in the last few months, actually, in fact.
And I remember that the guy, my chairman, came to me with a set of accounts, wanted me to sign off a set of accounts, and I refused because I knew there was something in there that shouldn't be in there. And I said, I'm not gonna sign these accounts for you. I remember saying to him, he said, if you don't sign them, I'm going to fire you. And I remember thinking to myself, what do you do? Do you go for it, sign it, and be comfortable, and all will be okay? And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So I said, well, do what you like. I'm not signing it. So he fired me. And he was like, oh my God, he wasn't kidding. This is quite. So I went home to see Lynn, and Richard was about 6 months old then, baby in arms, and John was about 3. And I got home and said, I've been fired. And it was like, what do you do now? Being fired was the best gift I was ever given. Absolutely. It was just, in hindsight, I want to go and get hold of my chairman and give him a big kiss, because that was just the best thing he ever did for me. It didn't feel like it at the time.
Love it. And there's so many questions. There's so many things I want to say. The fact that you were so resilient, the fact that there was no in your vocabulary, because being from the background that you were, you know, working in the weapons industry, that's such a Boise thing, isn't it? Who wants to go and start fiddling around with material, ball gowns? That's just the polar opposite almost, isn't it? And
I did get my leg pulled quite a bit about that, I have to say.
Do you know, but there was no in your vocabulary, and you did it, and that is something that then led you into a different role altogether. And it just shows the level of resilience that you have, the confidence that you have in, you know, being able to deliver in more than just one area of life and expertise, because your expertise is just so transferable. Your skills are so transferable from one to another profession. And the fact that you know, you just don't mind trying it, stepping outside of that comfort zone. As you say, do not put yourself into boxes. And that's what really impressed me with you when we first spoke. I just thought, wow. And, you know, you talk about education, you talk about you didn't do very well at school because you thought you were having a business handed down to you. And I come from a background that values academia highly. So my grandmother left her 3 children with nannies and went back to university and got her master's, and then became a very successful headmistress all those years ago, when, you know, girls weren't educated particularly. So my family have always valued education hugely, especially for the girls, because it came so difficult to the women in the family. They had to really fight for it because their brothers were being sent to Europe and to America to kind of get their you know, degrees and their medical profession. Most of them are medics, and the girls had to fight to get a place in education. So as a result of that, I think education has been very important, especially for the girls. So we've always kind of, you know, I kind of had my path carved, if you like, that there was no option but to go to university, or that was what I understood by my kind of belief set that I had adopted from growing up.
Yeah.
And I do definitely value education hugely. But
Absolutely.
the one thing that I loved when I started my journey of personal revolution, when I was meeting entrepreneurs like you all over the place, was that many hadn't even finished school.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet they had such successful enterprises, and they were so worldly, and they had a very different mindset to the people who were highly educated in my circle. And that is the one thing that was just so attractive for me. And that's when I started thinking that maybe there is another option for me. Just because I've been educated, just because I'm a professional in one field, doesn't mean I need to stick to that. So body of education, great, but I think we do need to encourage this kind of broader spectrum of what do you want to do in our kids, rather than drive them down a certain path. I talk to my clients and my friends about this. The bigger the risk, sometimes the more satisfaction you have when you succeed in life, because there are so many people telling you not to do it. I remember my dad still tells the stories of how many people said to him, what are you doing? You're successful here. You've got it all here. What are you doing? Don't do it. And he purely did it for the sake of his kids.
Yeah.
And that's to be admired, really.
Yeah, and you have so many reasons, and I think it can relate to people in their business life, where you have people that stay on the same path forever, and we discussed that. You stay on the motorway and you don't take the side roads, and for many reasons. Some are you can understand them, and sometimes it's just because you don't have the opportunity, or you don't make the opportunity happen. And concerning my personal life, I was scared to change, and when we decided to set up the company, it's just because suddenly when I lost my job, I had to do something else, and it was the right time to do it. And of course, I needed to have some outside help, and I discussed with a lot of people. But I think it's like when people are moving and when people are setting a new business or changing job, it's a time where you have to reflect on yourself and to get out of your comfort zone. I think now it's my new I should write it down on my shirt. Get out of your comfort zone.
I know.
Because in the past I was scared of what would happen to my children. I was staying in my job because I was, protected in a way. I thought I was protected in a way, working 14 years in the same company.
Yeah.
My kids were at university. I needed to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
And all the right and wrong reasons to stay in your job.
Yeah.
And basically, if you get out of your comfort zone and you start to do something different, of course, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging, like moving to a new country, like your parents did. But in a way, you have an objective. And I hear a lot of people saying, you set up an objective, and then the money will come in, because you are focused on what you want to do. You are focused on your customers. You are focused on a better life for your children. And you'll make sure that you have everything to reach that aim.
I think you've just said it. It's whatever you put your mind to, and I think that is a lesson. That the more positive outcomes we set our mind to, the more we can achieve them. So it's almost like having that outcome, and there's no turning around. And it may not be a straight road. It's always a zigzaggy route. You always have to deviate a little bit. It's never you'll never get to destination how you thought you would. You have to be flexible, but that's one of the things, isn't it, about the journey that the immigrants go on. That's I think the successful ones are the ones that integrate into society. So you talked last time about how you kind of not only help your clients move to Luxembourg, but you also take them through a bit of an introduction of, this is the culture in Luxembourg, this is what people say, do, act like, so it's important for people to understand the culture that they move into so that they can integrate,
Yeah, I think
because
it's
there
very
are
important.
cultural differences that will kind of, you know, give us those barriers. So it's really important to be educated and how, you know, be told how we can come together rather than stay apart and not integrate, and then kind of create the division that we sometimes see in society.
The courage of our authenticity. So be courageous is all about acting with the heart. Considering the courage comes from coragere in Latin, means acting through the heart. It's really, really a pathway toward the self-discovery. And all along this pathway, we become more and more able to choose, therefore to act, and therefore using will in line with our authenticity. So being aware about the self as a key core component of our life, and from that point of presence, we can then choose, that's the key point about will, choosing how to respond instead of react. This is a work of self-awareness, responsibility, etc. And psychosynthesis is all about that. Is the synthesis of the psyche, that's about psychosynthesis, through the synthesis of the multiplicity that we live inside our us unconsciously, that's the key point. We are driven by the need of each one of the parts that consist of role, habits, conditioning, you know, that make up our mind at the end of the day. Once we are aware that those are part, or as I do, and I permit myself to pick up tools that I'm using in my work, a mask, okay, by peeling off mask by mask, or subpersonality as we call, we become more and more able to unfold our authenticity with care, compassion, and responsibility, because each one of the masks of the role represent us. Oh, it's me, yes, but it's a part of me. This is already a realization, so awareness, that if I'm always wearing a role, accordingly, I want something from that role. I am a mother, I want. I'm a lawyer, I want, you know. But I'm also a sister, I'm also a daughter, I'm also a researcher, I'm also. And, you know, this is already the courage of recognizing the many part multiplicity, and start to minimalize, synthesize the nucleus, the self. That's the center that we define in psychosynthesis, pure awareness and will. Once we are there, it's the natural presence, you know, that emerge with intuition.
For those that are right at the start of their journey of self-discovery, for those who are beginning to kind of think that, okay, you know, we have been a lawyer, we have been a doctor, we have been, you know, we've had a role in a way, and we have kind of acted in that role. How would you encourage them to start getting in touch with that core that you beautifully talked about, with their self? It's a very long process, but, you know, where would they start from?
With a question that's important, questioning ourselves. Is it that all of me? This is a very simple question. Is that all of me? I'm all a mother, I'm all a lawyer, all a sister, or I am this and that, the both of and, both and, not just this or that. Once we question ourselves, I'm only that, I'm just that, or there is more. And once, you know, the question, the right question is there, the process of, I want to know more, let me see, you know, the enthusiasm emerge, and the enthusiasm, again, from the key word enthusiasmos, it means from Latin being in connection with the heart. and the self is in the heart, that metaphorical reside, not in the head, is in the heart.
It's only through a diverse workforce and a diverse mix are you ever going to be able to deliver products and be innovative and deliver things that are fit for purpose for our customers. Because like it or not, our customers are diverse. All of our customers are diverse. You know, we are a multicultural globe. You know, it's not just in one country. We are multicultural. We nearly all products are globally available, and therefore, you know, we have to be delivering stuff for our customers, and they have to be accessible to everyone as well and inclusive to everyone. So it's only through having that in your team will you get that innovative, you'll get that, you know, it's good to challenge each other. If you all agree with each other, then that's just boring. So challenging, but being tolerant and respectful is really, really important.
What you say in that taking it to school and promoting that is one of the most important things. That's what I like doing too with my NLP hat on. I like to take my workshops to schools so that through exercise, through fun, through play, people realize to celebrate the differences. First of all, it's being aware of the differences in everybody else, being aware of the reason that people are different, you know, in the way that we learn we're different, in the way we perceive the world we're different. We all have our unique maps and unique way of understanding the world and each other. And unless that is taught, and unfortunately the syllabus doesn't teach that, unless that's taught, when people are taught to just embrace each other's differences, because as you say, we are stronger because of those differences. And that's the message that I'd like to drive through as well. So you're right in that if we do try and if we succeed just a little bit, each of us a little bit, kind of compounds into an awful lot. And as I said, I love your energy, Jill, because you are a full-time employee, you are a mother, you run a home, and you do all of these fabulous things along the way as well. So that again, I guess means that there's no such thing as I don't have time.
Do you think that you could ever maybe reach the levels of the amazing YouTuber Spirit CHM?
Would that be you by any chance?
That would be me by any chance.
And you have a lot more subscribers than I have currently.
Currently, but that does not mean in the future.